everybody, it's Melanie Benson here, America's leading small business optimizer, and this weekly series is focused on how to stop the overwhelm and underperforming in your business. By implementing some key strategies you're going to learn from some of the great minds in entrepreneurship and small business out there. The whole idea here is how can we put small strategies and little fixes in place that are going to generate exponential impact and profits. So ultimately, we can do more of what we love. And today, I'm just having a lot of fun bringing my good friend Jim Palmer back to the show. Jim is a marketing and business building expert. He's been known for many years as the newsletter guru. And Jim has recently put out this fantastic book, which I had the major privilege of writing the foreword on, called Decide the Ultimate Success Trigger. So today, Jim and I are going to talk a little bit about decisions and squishyville and head trash and all that stuff that's getting in our way as entrepreneurs. So, hey, Jim, welcome back.
Hey, Melanie, thanks for having me. You know, I've been having major attacks of remorse because my conscience is getting the better of me. I should have had you as a co-author on this.
You know, it's funny, I thought about that, and I'm like, he's already in motion. We'll just let him roll.
Yeah.
But, you know, and the reason why Jim is saying that is because, you know, we've had a lot of discussions over the years, and, you know, he's interviewed me several times, and he was really gracious enough to share a lot of my own wisdom and paraphrased me, which was so beautiful, and, you know, shared these beautiful nuggets. So I kind of co-authored you without all the work.
And the cool thing was, not only did I share some of the many interviews I've done with you, but I even shared some of the stuff you did working up on my brain.
Yeah.
And it's just made for a very powerful book.
Yeah, I feel honored. And you know what? I have to say it's a great book. And one of the reasons I think it's such a great book is decisions. You know, I think every human being on this planet is faced with decisions all day long, but as a business owner, the decisions take on a much higher level of impact, and there's a lot more risk involved, and there's so many more factors to consider. So let's talk a little bit about what was the catalyst for you to write the book, Decide.
You know, what's funny about that is, so when Stop Waiting for It to Get Easier, Create Your Dream Business Now, that came out, I think, in September of 2014, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I got to take a break. I've just written 5 books in 5 years. I just need a break from the keyboard. And but I started feeling these nudges, and because of the amazing coaching you've given me for years, I started last year doing something that I've been holding back on, which is doing my own live events. And there was one specific module, Melanie, that I teach called Mindset, Money and Success, because you know that people have such weird relationship with money. It can hold them back. It can repel money and attract money if it's in the right. Anyway, I was sharing a lot of my story, and as I do in the book, I was sharing so much of my personal journey. And when I started my business, it was after unemployment and cancer. I had no money. I was in debt, and that's how I started, right? And so I talked about those challenges in a very real way. And it took about an hour to get through this particular module. And when I was looked out in the audience, I saw like at least 4 grown people with like tears in their eyes. And I thought, wow, I knew this would be powerful, but it just really hit me how powerful it was. And a couple people came up to me and said, you know what, you got to share this with a bigger audience. You ought to make this like your next book. You ought to talk about mindset. I'm like, oh, good Lord. I don't want to write a book, and I don't want to do a mindset book. But, you know, long story short, I just kept getting signs like that. And so I decided to do it. How I arrived at the title was, you know, it is very much a book about how you use your brain to make decisions and move forward and get over your head trash and imposter syndrome and all that. But I didn't want to be labeled as just a mindset book, so people automatically assume, oh, it's kind of woo-woo and just think it and it'll come to you and all this and that. And so I wanted to narrow it down at least with the title. And what I figured out, Melanie, from studying successful people for so long is that highly successful entrepreneurs have such an uncanny ability to see it, either assess a challenge, see an opportunity, but they quickly discover the pros and cons or discuss them, and then they make a decision and move forward. You know, being in action causes momentum, and growing businesses love momentum. Being indecisive causes inaction, so it's the opposite. So it is getting comfortable with all of the various decisions that we have that is really what I think the ultimate success trigger, hence the name of the book.
Yeah. And I think comfortable is an interesting word. I would actually say confident, you know, because I think there is a place where we will be extraordinarily uncomfortable as entrepreneurs, right? Like, I can't think of one decision I made that made me comfortable, but I can tell you when you have the confidence and you know that you have to make a decision in order to stay in that momentum, you find that place inside of you that has the strength to go, I just got to go for it, right?
Well, I call it in the book, you mentioned squishy, but I like to come up with my own terminology. But the other thing in the book, which I call, and in large part thanks from you working with me, is everybody has a holy crap 3 a.m. moment. And so it's 3 a.m., it's pitch dark, your eyes are wide open, you're looking up at the black ceiling, you're going, holy crap, how am I going to make payroll? Holy crap, I haven't paid myself in 90 days, and I own the business. Holy crap, and there's tons of them, right? And you said something to me probably in 2007, something to the effect of, Jim, the way you're growing your business and the way I know you're looking at other people, peers and people, that you admire, what makes you think you can achieve the same level of growth and success without kind of doing what they're doing? And you were calling me out on stuff that I wasn't doing. And it was a holy crap moment. And part of it is I realized also when you internalize and personalize your holy crap moment. So for me, still being in debt and not doing some of the things that other successful people do, I had 2 daughters that want to go to college. I knew they'd get married. And you can't save your way out of debt. You know that. You got to grow your way out of debt. So I just had a really, pardon the expression, I've said this on other interviews. I said, Melanie bitch slapped me and said, right? So I said, Melanie really got a hold of me and just made me face the fact that I was the only impediment to my growth. And I started one by one chipping away and kicking this head trash and kicking these demons that I had to the curb and taking off.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a really good point about demons. I like to ask my guests, like, what's the biggest or the most in-your-face problem that your clients are experiencing? So, I think that demon is something every entrepreneur on this planet is struggling with in their head. And I know that you cannot make good decisions with demons roaming around in your head trying to talk you out of doing the best thing for your business, because that part of our brain is going to try and play it safe.
Right.
What's your take on the demon in our head and the head trash, as you're referring to it in the book?
I actually named most of them, but the most current or freshest demon that I've kicked to the curb last year was running my own live events and seminars. And so I actually described the head trash as to why every time it came up with you, our good friend Adam Urbanski, and other people in my life saying, man, God, you're a coach. You ought to be doing it. Go do your own live events. And I'd make up, I'm busy. I'm writing my book. I'd make excuses. And here's the reality. So this is like, I don't know how good the camera is going to be, but you may see me turn red here. But so the head trash is, what if nobody comes? Mm-hmm. What if I owe a ton of money for the hotel, and you know, Mel, because you've done your own, you've got to pledge a certain amount of rooms to be sold, and if they don't sell, you pay for them, the caterer, the AV guy. On the other hand, what if my marketing is good and people come and I suck and people walk out at the first lunch break and want their money back? What if I freeze? I mean, this is all the stuff that goes on that it's really... It is self-limiting thoughts and beliefs that could come from anywhere, from when you were a kid and God forbid your parents said, don't do that. You're never going to amount to anything. And it's just kind of the worst. Or just this other stuff, like you said, playing it safe. But, you've got to jump into the deep end of the pool. There's no money being made up at the shallow end. All the activity is where you're uncomfortable and grow. So I did it. I didn't suck. I sold out 2 of them. I'm getting ready to do another one, which you are coming to. I'm so excited. But, when you look at groups of people, whether it's just an economy in general, business owners, whatever, there's always the top 1 or 2%. And there is the top 1 or 2% for a reason. It has nothing to do with fairness or anything. It's because we're all wired differently, and there are people who are willing to do the things that others aren't willing to do. They're willing to be uncomfortable. They're willing to risk. They're willing to decide, I'm doing this, and we're going to see what happens. It's a very small amount of people who actually have the cojones to do that.
It's funny you brought something up just now. We had a whole conversation on my Money DNA call about the risk taking that you have to have as an entrepreneur. You have to have the cojones, if you will, to decide things that are going to feel risky. And I see a lot of people holding themselves back because of the fear of what might happen, like you were just saying. So let's say there's a decision on the table and there's a huge risk involved. There's massive fear. How would you coach somebody to take action that they know is going to be good for their business? It's going to be a really, it's the right thing to do, but the fear is up.
You really have to personalize it, and that's why you need to work with a coach. So I've done it. You've done it for me. So you can't coach yourself out of the fear closet. I do not believe that. You can read. I've done all the positive affirmations. I did all the stuff, but you need somebody to push you and bitch slap you and kick you in the ass, pardon my French, and keep going, right? So I actually tell a story in the book. There was a guy I was coaching. He was a consultant, and when you're in that business, you need to be making cold calls. Other things you can do. Bottom line, you got to go get clients to know about you. And he had this amazing fear, and he just was struggling for months. And on one of our one-on-one calls, he told me, I just can't get myself to do these dang calls. I'm struggling, and this, that, and the other thing. He said, what should I do, Jim? I said, and I always ask permission when I do this. I said, I need permission to speak candidly with you. And he goes, for what I'm paying you, that's what I want to hear. And I said, okay, and you may hate me. You may even want to quit the program, but this is the truth. And I said, your kids, he had a junior in high school at the time and a ninth grader, a daughter. And I said, your kids are learning from the example you're setting. They don't necessarily see you not making the calls because they go to school, but they see how down you are. They see that you're struggling. They see that you can't get your dishwasher repaired. He shared that with me. They're doing all these different things. What are you going to do when your son comes home and says, I'm not going to try out for baseball, Dad, because I might whiff and the kids will yell at me and I'd rather just go home. I'm going to play video games in my room. Are you going to be happy with that? Are you going to tell him it's okay not to risk? It's okay not to take the shot? No, you're going to do it. So first of all, you got to do it for them. Get the dishwasher repaired. Help pay for their baseball and their singing lessons and everything else. And by the way, once you do make these calls, and all you got to do is 5 a day. I said, if you can do 5 a day starting at 8:45 so you miss the gatekeeper, and by 9:15 you'll have 5 calls. That's 25 calls a week. That's 100 calls a month. What do you think the stats are? And Melanie, he starts reeling off the stats. A month later, he called me and said, I have 5 appointments and I have 1 new client, and he was off to the races. And I said, now I want you to share that experience with your kids. So what I really did there is I personalized it, but I also, to be honest with you, and you know this as a coach, I challenged his manhood because he needed to step up, right? I mean, that's the advantage of working with a coach and not just the accountability group. When you pay somebody to be in your face and push you, and he's done really, really well. He's a partner with this big company now, but it was all about getting you past that fear, that boom, it was hitting him right here and he couldn't get around it. So I made it about his kids.
I like that you brought up that fear is personal, and it's like you can't coach yourself out of fear. You can tell yourself a lot of lovely things, but the truth is sometimes you need somebody to shine the light on that blind spot and create a new perspective. Because I think a lot of times it's just getting out of our own way and being able to see what's possible through a new lens. And even sometimes it's about just breaking it down and coming up with an action plan that you can't see for yourself.
And sometimes it's about reframing it.
Yes.
You mentioned Money DNA, which is an amazing course. I took that. I loved it. I grew up thinking debt is bad. I believe we weren't supposed to be in debt. And we weren't especially supposed to have credit card debt. Like there's a certain name for debts, different debts. I mean, first of all, who buys a house for cash? So debt, not all debt is bad, right? But I had this massive pile of credit card debt from when I was keeping my family going during the unemployment and then starting the business. And between you and someone else that I talked to, I reframed the debt, the credit card debt. I stopped calling it that. I called it my lines of credit. I had business lines of credit with Citibank, Bank of America, you name it. I had business lines of credit that I could tap into to keep my dream alive. And the other thing is, as you say, you can't be emotional about money. So money, this debt that I looked at every Friday when I paid my bills, and oh crap, I can't pay myself. I don't have enough for this. I internalized it so much, and I just stopped. It could be used as a measurement tool about what you're doing, but it's also just a way to make things happen. So I stopped worrying about it and I started focusing on the growth, and that allowed me to start paying down the debt faster because I stopped worrying about every nickel and dime that I didn't have. That was powerful.
It's, again, like you said, reframing. Sometimes all it takes is a whole new or a little shift in perspective, and you're off to the races. Jim, what would you say is one of the most difficult decisions you ever made that became the most rewarding choice?
You know what just popped in my head, so I'm going to go with it because sometimes you think about it. But the first thing that popped into my head was my greatest fear for most of my life was public speaking.
Mm.
And I share in the book that I even almost took an F in history class in the 11th grade because this teacher was so lazy. All he did was have kids get up and read the book, the textbook, up and down the rows. And I'd guess, okay, 10 minutes, I'm not going to make it today. And the next day I knew it'd be my turn. I'd skip class. I wanted no parts of it. And then when my career started going, I started finding ways of, instead of having a store meeting when I was a store manager, I'd meet with people individually. I'd keep everybody going in these little ad hoc groups, but I never called like 10 or 12 people together to stand there and look at me speak to them. But then, Melanie, in this business in 2007 when I started writing books and wanted to become a coach and all these other things, and I learned the power of marketing from one-to-one to one-to-many. So one-to-one when you start a business, you go to a credit card, you go to a networking event. Something there probably just happened. You go to a networking event, right? And hey, I'm Jim and I'm Tom, and you meet one-to-one. But when you speak, you're speaking to 1 to 10, 20, 1,000, whatever. Very powerful. And so I had to kick that demon. Now, one of the things I share in the book is that when I want to kick a demon to the curb, I go all in. So I don't just try this and see if it works. Like I did the Dale Carnegie program. It was like 14 months, right? I didn't want to do that and say, okay, a little progress, but now I'm still stuck. And then I'll do something else. So I did Dale Carnegie. I did positive affirmations. I went to a professional hypnotist. I learned how to do it myself. I'm just, everything all at once. And I can get on any stage now and speak in front of a group. I'm not half bad. And it brings me so much joy. And actually, it brings me a lot of clients, too. People that come to my program sometimes say, oh, I heard you speak in Houston. Well, I spoke in Houston like 5 years ago, right? So it's a great, great positioning tool. But that was, and I'm telling you, I don't think how old I must have been. Probably about 46 at the time. So I struggled with that for 46 years. And again, now I could accept any invitation to speak.
That's brilliant. I love it. It's funny, people laugh when they find out I used to be the shyest kid ever. Like I was so embarrassed to talk in front of people, and I had a high school public speaking class that helped me kind of find some fun in it, and it was a little bit fun. But oh my God, the first speech I ever gave in public, I was part of a team, and I was working for Motorola at the time. There was 500 people in the audience. And I was somewhat terrible. Like, it was like, I look back and I was like, we were stiff, and it was just like so not comfortable at all. And I know many of my first speeches were like that. So it's funny, like making a decision, I'm going to get better at this, or I'm going to commit to being really great on stage, or I'm just going to commit to keep doing it till I find my groove, whatever that is. Like, again, it always comes back to that decision. What are you going to decide to do with it?
And you know what I'll always remember as a turning point, not the one where I started doing all that stuff to get over it, but in, I think it was 2009, right after my book, The Magic of Newsletter Marketing came out, right? I got invited by Bill Glazer and Lee Meltier to come speak to their new group called Peak Performers. So it was about 120, high-level mastermind people. And they wanted me to come speak. Me in front of them? Who am I? I'm just little Jim, right? And dead trash. And I was like, I could say I'm busy. I could say I'm traveling. I could say, no, I will be there. Thank you so much. It's an honor. And it was about 3 months away. Melanie, I'm telling you this, and if this is another key to getting over it, I practiced for 3 months every single day. I would envision being introduced. I envisioned what the meeting room looked like. I would walk around the room over there and then come into my office, and then this would be my stage, and I did it. So when I finally gave that speech, which would have been the first major speech, it just flowed and it happened. And I can remember, I knew I was connecting with the audience and they're asking me questions, and I could see Bill just disappeared. At first he doesn't because he's not sure how you're going to do. He just disappeared, and I had the room for like an hour, and it was just like this thing. I could have been doing backflips back to my room. You know what I mean? I felt so amazing for having done that.
So being the shy guy, now, just in case you guys don't know this about Jim, now he comes out of the back of the room wearing a cape, bounding down the aisle to the stage.
How about that? So people are wondering, so our buddy Adam Benson, back then, Adam asked me to speak at his event, and I think we met up at a Joe Polish event, or not Joe Polish, Yannick Silver event. He used to do those undergrounds, so they're so awesome. And at that time, I had my new caricature, the Newsletter Guru caricature, but I had a cape on with NG, and I said, saving small business, one newsletter at a time. He goes, you ought to get a cape like that. And I said, I might do that. He said, do it and bring it to my event. I said, I don't know if I can do that, because he runs a pretty good size event, new audience for me. He says, and I'm not going to attempt his Polish accent, but he goes, Jim, if you don't do it, you are not going to like the way I introduce you.
That would be
so
Adam.
The gauntlet was thrown down. Melanie, here's a secret. By the way, it was a big room, right? Because you were there.
Yeah.
And I asked the AV people what time they get in the room. I think they said like they come in for 6 a.m. to set up and make sure everything's good. And I said, I will be there. So I put on my sweatpants, got out down there, and I ran like 5 times from the back of the room to the stage because Superman would not take the stairs, right? So I wanted to leap up on stage and not fall on my face. So I practiced, but I did it.
I didn't know that part. That's awesome. Well, our other good friend James Melanchak always says, practice makes permanent. So you want to really have a great result with your decision. You have to make sure that you're practicing the result you want. And a lot of people just wing it. It's like this is why they're not getting the results they want. And I'm guilty of that, by the way. I have winged it.
Being an entrepreneur is like, in a way, it's like being a performer. You are always on. You are always on stage. It's always a performance. So whether you're walking in a major event, you're just an attendee there. There are people that are going to see you. They might not even approach you, but the way you handle yourself, the way you dress, it's always a performance. It really is.
Yeah. So, I have this question that's kind of burning a hole in my head, and I'm really curious about your decision-making strategy.
Okay.
And I'll share mine after you have a chance to share, but we all have strategies, right? We have strategies to get up in the morning. We have strategies of how we get ready. We have strategies how we prepare food. And everybody on this planet has a strategy for how they make a decision. Do you know what your strategy is when you're going to make a decision?
I do, and there's variations depending what I'm deciding. Like, should I ignore this person? Should I take this opportunity? In general, my overall strategy is if I decide to say yes to this opportunity or whatever, is it going to move me closer to my, and I do believe, and this is from being in a mastermind with you and Adam, is this going to help me achieve the 1 or 2 goals that I've set for this year? Mm-hmm. And if not, at what, you're probably going, oh, darn, Jim's stealing my thunder. I told you I learned a lot from you. But if not, if I don't say yes, what do I got to say? Or if I say yes, what do I say no to? Because there's only so much time. Some people go, oh, well, I've got an opportunity for JV, and this person says, oh, I'm just going to use your stuff. I've got the list. You don't have to do anything, and I'll take care of it. We'll split it 50-50. Oh, shiny object, right? In reality, if you say yes to that, even if you think there's nothing for you to do, you're going to be thinking about it. Is he doing it? How's he representing me? You got so much bandwidth. You have to focus on the 1 or 2 goals that you want to accomplish. And if you say yes to anything, is that going to help you get there faster, or is it going to detract you? That's the major way I make decisions.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, I see that you are taking my advice. I kind of have the same approach, but, I had this little formula embedded in my brain from my corporate days. And we used to look at an opportunity and say, all right, so what do we have to say no to if we're saying yes to this, right? So making sure there was bandwidth. So I took a lot of the questions and the way they filter through an opportunity, and I brought those into my business. I have a tool I have called Get Out of Overwhelm, and one of the levels of it is the decision-making, hell yes decision-making formula. So if it's not a hell yes, like if everything in my body isn't excited, if it's not aligned with my values, if it's not going to get me to my priorities, then it's probably a no. And so I actually take it one step deeper, because I can look at something from a fact level and I can make a case for it, right? Oh, this would be good money. I've got the time for it. But if I look at this opportunity, especially if there's a significant amount of time involved in it, and I go, God, I just dread the idea of having to do that. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's speaking, a joint venture deal, a product, anything, I just won't do it now. Because to me, I've got to be thriving emotionally, energetically, financially. And if I'm not, why bother? Life's too short to do stuff that you dread.
Absolutely. Lori Grenier on the Shark Tank says, I know instantly within the first 30 seconds when someone starts their pitch, whether it's a hero or a zero. kind of describes what you said. So if you don't feel excited about, and by the way, if you don't feel excited, it's not going to change or get better.
Exactly.
You know, it's
even money isn't going to make it better.
Money will not make it better.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. It's a hard lesson for a lot of people to learn because bright shiny object syndrome kicks in. I'm a superhero. I can do anything. Like, oh my gosh, there's all these opportunities coming at me. And maybe it's because as we evolve more in our business, you get more discerning, or you realize, oh my gosh, I'm so not going to get myself into that mess again. But I think, do you think like I've seen a lot of people who are newer in business, or maybe they're just kind of in an upswing, they're susceptible to more of those bright shiny objects?
It is. And one of the things that you said in the book, and you said what I was thinking, which was awesome. That's what makes the book so powerful, is your decision. You have like a decision-making muscle. It needs to be developed and stretched, etc. So the more decisions you make, and I stopped, somebody actually asked me on this interview juggernaut, how many decisions do you make in a day? I said, I don't even have the foggiest, but it could be 100, right? I mean, from everything from, should I go out for lunch, or should I just eat at my desk for 6 minutes and have Melanie get mad at me, not take my break, right? Or should I do this, or should I do that, or whatever? And here's the thing, it's just like working out. The more you use your decision-making muscle, the finer it gets developed. And you'll know whether, again, you can call it your gut, intuition, the spirit, whatever. You're going to know almost instantly, and it's almost instantly always correct what you feel in your gut. You're going to know if it's the right thing to do or not. And it could be, hey, Jim, a customer's upset about this. Okay, we'll fix that. Well, just fix it. I don't care what it costs. Fix it. Make them happy. That's a decision, right? I'd rather have happy customers than lose $50 or, whatever it is. But that becomes finely tuned. And the first time you do that, by the way, and if you're still in like cash flow mode, it makes it a little bit harder. Like, oh God, I got to like do a refund or do this or that. You always got to take the long view. So it is something that gets easier and better with practice.
Yeah. So here's what I just extracted from that I want our listeners to really take in about making decisions. First of all, you're really clear that you're in a long-term game. So big picture thinking. Short-term decisions are almost always disastrous. Got to make the decision for the long term. The second thing is you got to be really, really clear what you stand for. Some people call that values. Some people call those your business standards. But when you're really clear what you stand for, you're going to make better decisions. And then the third thing is like get really clear what your tolerance is for, correcting problems, whether whatever your customer service strategy is, or your parameters, if you will. But when you have those things in place, you can make quick decisions and you can execute quickly on what needs to be done to implement. And I just wanted to pull that out of what you just said because it's a brilliant formula.
So, Melanie, I want to add to that, and I want to tell people, I don't care where you are, don't be cheap. What you do, how you do it is saying volumes about the kind of business you run, okay? I had a guy, so, with this whole book launch, we're giving away 500 free copies of the book. We asked them to pay $6.95 shipping and handling. One of the guys that bought it is on like the western province of Canada. And he sent an email. He says, I am flabbergasted. And whenever you see something like that, I'm like, oh, God, you instantly go, what happened? He goes, I ordered this book like 4 days ago and figured with the book promo, you'd send it media mail. And I've got the book now. I'm in Western Canada. I don't even know how that happened. And he said, you guys are awesome. Now, at $6.95, I got to tell you, if you're doing this whole strategy, you don't make money. You probably go in the hole a little bit. That guy, if he likes anything I have to say, if he reads the book, checks out my different programs and companies, I've already set the bar pretty high that he's going to think we're a pretty quality company. So don't be so penny pound and, what's that expression, penny wise and pound foolish. When it has everything to do with how people see you, and you need to create raving fans. And so anyway, I don't know.
That's a brilliant nugget of advice. And, you have so many great little nuggets of wisdom. And, there's a lot of things that I've learned from you over the years as well. I feel like I'm so fortunate to have you in my life because you've taught me so much about customer service and being able to retain and being able to have like a really powerful business model that works. So I'm curious around this theme of decide and creating ultimate success. Do you have a mantra or a quote that you think would really would stick with us to remember why this is so powerful?
Oh, two popped in my head, so I'll just go with two. First of all, it's not about you. So this is life and business in general. I mean, that it's the first sentence in The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren, like one of the best-selling books of all time.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's about in your personal life. It's about your family and people that you love and care about and making a difference. In your business life, it's about how do I serve others first? How do I create enormous amount of value and just make people's lives better? Because that in and of itself is going to make you a profitable, growing company. But the second thing is, from a purely business standpoint, you will earn significantly more income for who you are than what you do. So whatever you do, if we are an accountant, a lawyer, a copywriter, a website developer, a coach, whatever it is, whatever your core competency and your skill is, you're going to earn more revenue if you really create, and market a personality, an image, and things like that. And I tell people, if you don't believe that's true, I will tell you that I'm a lifelong student. I'm always learning. I mean, this is only probably 25% of the books. The rest are in the basement because I keep shuffling them out. But here's the thing. I keep learning, but I guarantee I know almost 80% as much as I did 6 or 10 years ago, and my rates are dramatically different. Well, why is that? Because more people know about me, more people have experienced me, more people talk about me, more people know what I stand for, and that's about positioning. So it's always more about who you are in the marketplace than what you do.
Well said. So, Jim, let's share with everybody where they can get their hands on Decide, the Ultimate Success Trigger book.
Let's bring it forward here. Decide
Woohoo.
with Melanie Benson Strick.
There I am.
So we are giving away 500 free copies. Actually, we're more than halfway to that goal already, just at the end of the first week. And decideforsuccessbook.com, decideforsuccessbook.com is where you can get this book for $6.95, shipping and handling. I don't care where you live. I'm not going to charge you more. And by the way, you also get like 3 training videos from this live event that I did. And I've got a cool special report, 3 guaranteed profit boosters. You get it all for $6.95. You get Melanie in there. This is the first book, by the way, that I did an audio version. And I'm offering that. Well, you can buy that after the launch for $17.95, but I'm offering that at 50% off if you want to get that. Melanie, one person wrote me, this is so cool, and he said, Jim, I've been with the flu for a week. I got the audio book, and I said, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I feel nauseous, but I feel this is why I am sick, because I needed to be in the bed so I could listen to your book. And he pulled out like 3 different things that he goes, I now understand why I've been struggling. And I'm telling you, that's what an author wants to hear.
Yeah, not the part about him being sick when he's
No. I go through stuff, right? Things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't sick, it'd be on his to be read later list. So.
It's so true. Isn't it interesting? He's using that time that he's not feeling good to better himself.
Yeah.
Great decision.
Decideforsuccessbook.com.
That's right. Jim, thanks so much. I've been really honored to be part of this process. It's a great book. I have to say, I was just like, oh my God, I'm so glad he put this out. I'm very flattered that you shared so much of my wisdom and the things that we've talked about. And it was fun writing the foreword for it. I have to say, it really made me think about what is my philosophy about decisions. So I hope you guys will go get a copy of it. Even if we're past the free part, because I know this is out there forever, I still recommend you go get it. If you're an audiobook person like I am, grab it on audio, but get a copy of it, devour it, and ask yourself, how could I up my game around decisions? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Be sure to post on the comments here if you're following along on the blog, if you're on iTunes. Love to hear what you enjoy about it by just heading over to melaniebensonstrick.com. And Jim, let's give that URL one more time where they can get the book. Decideforsuccessbook.com. And by the way, the audiobook, I go off script, which I've never done an audiobook before. So as I'm reading the written word, I'm like, I got to tell you one more thing, which they're not getting in the book, but you're getting here. So there's bonus material in the audiobook. It's just the way the little voice was going. I like it. I like it. I can't wait to finish getting through the audio version myself. All right.
Thanks so much. You are
Thanks for coming on, and thanks for being such a great friend. I love supporting your vision in the world. And can't wait to hear from you guys. What do you like most about the book? Go over to the blog, share it. See you guys soon.
Decide.